Deuteronomy 25, did anything jump out at you guys? Anything that was disturbing before I dive in?
Well, losing a hand is serious business.
Losing a hand is serious business.
Well, grabbing the private parts too.
That's what got me too.
Yeah.
Yep, that would get me too.
I wouldn't have thought of that one.
I would. I didn't.
Like
It's pretty specific.
Like I told Natalie, there's a reason for this,
Yeah.
and we'll
The
we'll
wife
get there.
jumping into the conflict and
Yeah, well, that's kind of strange too. That the guy would have to have his wife bail
I
him
think the
out.
lady, when her husband dies and her brother-in-law is supposed to marry her, and if he doesn't want to, well, big deal. Maybe I don't want to marry you either.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that too. We'll get there.
Well, and another one.
and
All
boy,
these
could you tell the
rules-
rest of his life with just one sandal on.
Right.
All these rules were supposed to be outside the town as they came in, right?
Hmm?
All the rules were supposed to be posted outside.
Oh, we'll have to get there. I'm not.
Am I a chapter ahead?
I can see we're still boosting our numbers with multiple showings. I approve.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary.
Well, I don't
Gary,
record.
Gary.
Don't record the doubles. Okay. So these are all good points, and you're right. They don't make sense to us, but they'll make sense to us in a couple minutes. So, 40 lashes.
In front of the judge.
In front of the judge.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that, because the judge has to monitor. Because what if somebody was really mad at you and he wanted to give you 60 lashes? If the judge wasn't
Right, you
there,
gotta stop at 40.
right, it's got to stop at 40.
Yeah.
And
So, was that to make sure no one would lose count?
yeah, exactly.
Probably right.
And-
The judge had to
Yeah.
monitor that.
There's
So
Gary.
we asked the
Hi,
one
Gary.
receiving the lashes
Right.
And
10 strokes ago.
actually, Karen brings up a good point. The judge was there to make sure nobody would lose count. And then later on, it was 40 minus 1 to make sure no one would lose count. So it was only 39 lashes. So when you think of when Jesus was lashed after his trial, he only received 39 lashes, not the 40. Because by that time it was reduced to 39.
Like
What's-
Paul received 40 minus 1.
Yeah, Paul also received the 39 lashes. He received it 5 times. And we know what the whip looked like. The whip always had something sharp at the end of it. So that when they whipped somebody and they pulled it back, it would inflict the maximum amount of damage. So it would like rip off skin.
Flush had come back with.
Yeah, so if you ever see the Mel Gibson movie, what's that again?
Passion of the Christ.
Thank you.
The Passion. That's really graphic, and it really shows it. It's hard to watch,
Passion?
The Passion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, but I think we should watch it because it shows us
I don't know if I could stand to watch it again.
how Jesus suffered because of our sin. Not only our sin, the sins of every person in the whole wide world before he lived, during his life, and afterwards. So that's why the punishment was so awful. And they limited it to 40 lashes because they thought that, 2 reasons. First reason is any more would humiliate the person, and they thought anything over 40 lashes might kill somebody.
It's very thoughtful of them.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
For making them lame for
How can we
life.
just let 5 lashes, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, 40 lashes was actually less than what was usually handed out at the time. Usually the Code of Hammurabi dictated 60 lashes. So the 40 lashes was a pretty big reduction. And the Romans would usually whip somebody until they died. So 40 is a decent number.
You know, you're not on camera, so if you want to come forward a little more so they can see you.
Well, they don't need to see me.
Okay.
Well, I won't be on camera anyway. It'd have to be over there. Don't knock my computer over.
Okay. There he is.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of, sort of. Okay. Verse 4. Is that odd? What do you guys think about do not muzzle an ox while he's treading out the grain? In verse 4, chapter 25.
Is the one about the ox muzzle?
Yeah, do not muzzle an ox while it was treading out the grain. Why would you do that?
Is it just mean-spirited so he won't eat?
Right, yeah. So God says, this poor animal's working for you. He's tied to the millstone, so he's grinding the grain, and his hooves, his hooves were hitting the grain, it would actually split the kernels off the chaff. So the ox was doing a lot of work, not only grinding the grain, but separating the grain. So God says, let the poor animal eat while it's working for you.
He'd need a little water with that too.
I agree.
Probably.
I agree.
Yes.
That's so nice having Natalie back. Sorry.
Now we get to Natalie's favorite section.
Is that completely sanitary to do it that way?
What's that? Oh, probably not. No,
No.
because
What else did he do in the grain?
you know what he does in the grain. Because
I'm just, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
when you gotta go, you gotta go.
right, and these animals don't say, "Excuse me, when's break
Potty
time?"
break.
Yeah, they don't say break time. They just go.
That is gross. Okay, sorry.
Well, you know,
Well, it doesn't, we probably all eaten as bad or worse and never known it and we're fine.
well, and Rich brings up a good point because the FDA allows so many bug parts and
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
and rat hairs in each food. So
Yeah.
what's the difference? And this is civilized
I know.
world. Yeah. Ugh, gross. Okay, so verse 5, if brothers, now this is an addition because hardly anywhere do you see that the brothers have to live together. So usually if there's just brothers, they're stuck with this law. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her to fulfill the duty of the brother-in-law. And we've seen this before throughout the Old Testament. And we know it's to protect the woman, so, well, actually it's to protect the family so the money doesn't leave the family. But a side benefit for the woman is she wouldn't be destitute. Because at least she'll have some way to
To be taken care of.
be taken care of.
So in my family history, while my sister was doing our family tree on that ancestry, we have family in Wisconsin that did that. Because she had already 5 children. She married the brother because the husband died, and she had another 5 or 6 children.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it was weird to
Well, those are farmhands.
that, well, and they were up north in Wisconsin by Green Bay area or wherever, I don't know,
Yeah.
someplace cold.
Thou shalt keep making more Jews.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
Well, but they couldn't travel far.
Right,
And there weren't a lot of people around anyway
right,
that
right.
you weren't related to.
But when she looked, she went, "Oh my gosh, he married her." So it's like a soap opera in our family.
I think that was
had
pretty
a
common
friend
back
who
Yeah, I
then.
think it
was
was
married
too.
to
Yeah.
an Iranian or Iraqi or somebody from the Middle East who had been a student here, and he was killed in an accident. And afterwards, she went over there to visit his family, and she came back married to his brother.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it wasn't just the Israelites that did this, like Jeanette points out, it was everybody in that area. And like Christy pointed out, in the U.S., the same thing happened because people lived together and that's all they knew.
right.
And you just couldn't travel long distances to get a bride.
What if that brother was already married?
Well, in certain cases, he would take on a second wife.
Oh,
I think he's still supposed to take on another
Yeah.
wife.
Because there's really nothing in the Bible that's, and we know Abraham had multiple wives.
Yeah.
They didn't outlaw multiple wives till later.
I remember something, I think from the Bible, that you weren't supposed to have more than 4.
oh my.
Four,
Yeah.
4 wives.
4 was supposed to be the number beyond which you couldn't keep them all happy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you'd lose your hair, hon. Oh,
Wow.
wait, you only have 1 wife. Just kidding.
All I need. It's all I need.
Yeah.
One challenging wife.
Yeah, 1 challenge is enough.
No.
Well, that's the proverb, right?
Yeah.
If you have a nasty wife, it's better to sit on the roof. We'll get the proverb later. Let's see.
With modern updates.
What year is
Where
it?
are we at?
Oh, so he shall
okay.
marry.
Yeah, so he's got to marry her, and it's called levirate, Levirat, and it means husband's brother. The lever is husband's brother. I always thought it was Levite, but it's levirate.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
What if there's no brother?
Oh, good
Well,
question.
then she's kind of out of luck.
Go to the
Oh,
neighbors?
Gotta take the neighbor down the road.
a cousin?
Cousin?
How about a cousin?
That's what I was,
Because it has to be a guy. I mean,
Well, but-
yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they believed that a man had to marry a woman back then.
I know what I said, sorry.
Yeah, and it had to stay in the family.
Right.
She would just be out of luck. You know, we think of Tamar. Tamar and Judah. Judah had 3 sons. First son messed up somehow. The Bible's not specific, and God killed him. The second son had to marry Tamar, and instead of getting her pregnant, he would ejaculate into the sand because he didn't want her sons to get his share of the inheritance. So God killed him,
Good.
and Judah had 1 son left, a young kid, and he didn't want that son to die. So he told Tamar, you know, you got to go away, live with your father. And remember the story as it goes on. Tamar kind of cons Judah into having sex with her, and she takes his staff and his amulet, I think, as she's holding it for him, and that's her proof that he had sex with her. So then she got the inheritance back. So that's an example, an extreme example of levirate marriage where it wasn't fulfilled. So he would have been one of the unsandaled if he didn't actually marry her.
Okay, I don't understand, if there's no brothers to marry, why can't she go marry some other man who's not in the family, since she's not going to get to keep any of the family's money anyway?
She'd be kind of undesirable
Okay.
because she's not a virgin, and it would be very hard for her to get married.
Oh.
And that's why it was so bad for
Well, why
Tamar
not?
to
Why
get
not her husband's father, if he's still living?
her.
Father-in-law.
Right. And that's what Judah was supposed to do. And if he didn't have enough wives, he probably would do that. So that's a good point.
I suspect some of the law is keeping it all good Jewish. I mean, as much as anything, they want all the kids to be good Jews and so on.
Yeah.
And carry on and get little
Yeah.
Jews.
As much as any riches, but.
Yeah, because they weren't allowed to marry outside of the faith, because they would take pagan wives, and then that's where Solomon got into trouble and some other people got into trouble too. So Rich is right, you should keep it in the line, but the woman wouldn't be desirable because she's not a virgin. So women really had it rough.
Yeah.
And this levirate law actually helped them out, even though it was intended to help out the family, to keep all the money in the family. But it was the only way that the woman could have any inheritance. Now there was the case of the daughters who did get their father's inheritance because the father didn't have any sons, but that was, I think that was in Leviticus.
Right.
Yeah, but then that was a situation where if they did marry, then their husbands got it.
Right.
Love Natalie here.
That's how I feel.
That's the way I feel, Natalie.
So,
This is so Old Testament. Now I can use that term.
Right, this is so Old Testament.
So Old Testament.
And we know that these laws ended with the Old Testament.
Thank goodness.
They didn't carry
thank you,
forward.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Thank
That's
you,
right,
Jesus.
thank you, Jesus.
Because once Jesus came around, he turned the whole world on its head.
Straighten people
He
out
straightened
there.
people out. Amen.
Well, however, it's only been about 100 years that women have had full rights.
To vote and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
right.
back, my grandmother, for instance, there
Yeah.
were quite a few years that she was a young girl before she was able to vote.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they let you guys drive too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Women
just-
drivers
Not just a buggy either.
Right.
Okay, well, let's not go down that one.
Okay, so if two men are fighting
Bad male
and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand.
Protect your private parts, guys, if you're in
Yeah.
a fight.
You get a woman mad at you,
Well-
you're in trouble.
Well, her heart was in the right place. It's
Her hand was
just her, yeah, that's the follow.
What, Jeanette?
They tell us what happened to her, but what about the ones that were fighting? They don't tell us how that ended.
That's true.
Well, one guy's hurting pretty bad. Okay, but this is the reason why.
Lefties hurting real bad.
This is the reason why that the woman's hand was cut off, because we know that God is all about life. And anything that ends life or inhibits life-giving activities, it's bad. So if the woman reaches out and injures the guy and he can't have children, that's the bad thing. So it seems extreme to us. It is extreme,
What was
but
the reason that she did it, though?
it
I
does
mean,
seem...
he might have been really, really mean to her. He might have deserved it.
Well, but she didn't do it to her husband. She's doing it to the other guy.
Oh, well, whoever it was.
She's teaming up
If
with
they
her
were me.
husband.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it does seem really bad to us, but there is a reason for it.
So there must have been a little bit of that going on.
Well, I'm sure there was.
A Saturday
I'm sure
night
there
at the
was.
bar.
Because laws aren't created unless
No.
somebody does something.
Yeah.
So.
What was we had something like that not all that many years ago, wasn't it, Lorena Bobbitt
Yeah.
or something?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
she,
Yeah.
Right.
mm-hmm.
Boy, was he deserving.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, he was. And this is the only instance in the Bible where mutilation is even talked about. So, that's that. Okay, verses 13 through 16 is talking about like when you're selling something and you had to weigh it out. So God didn't want you to cheat anybody. God didn't want you to steal. And this was done by having dishonest weights. You hear the old story of where the butcher put his thumb on the scale.
Yeah.
And same thing. Because thou shalt not steal. And a lot of Deuteronomy 25 does focus on the thou shalt not steal commandment. You see, thou shalt not steal life. Thou shalt not steal food from the animal as he's working. And thou shalt not steal when you're selling somebody something. Then we get to the Amalekites. These were the people who didn't help the Jews as they were leaving Egypt. And God says you need to wipe these people out. Because God in his infinite wisdom, he knows everything from beginning to end. He knows that these people will never repent. So God says you need to wipe them out. Seems nasty to us, but it's what God wanted done. Deuteronomy 26, first fruits and tithes. So this takes us back to the tithing. We've seen this throughout the Bible. First time was with Melchizedek, when Abraham offered Melchizedek a tithe, and that was a good chapter where Abraham brought out bread and wine to Melchizedek. And that was an odd meal at the time. But that's why people think that Melchizedek is a representative of Jesus.
That's right.
Or the first time that Jesus might have appeared back in Genesis.
Just ask and not to sidetrack anything, but Does the Methodist Church have any official view on things like that? That's something they wouldn't have an official view on, right?
On,
Whether Melchizedek could have been the Christ or a representative of
no,
Christ, or
no,
I
I
mean,
don't,
it's
I don't
kinda
know if there's
hard to-
any denomination that, that says it's not. It's just one of those gray areas where it seems like,
yeah,
because of the verbiage that's used to describe Melchizedek and the meal that's used. But some people also say it's a stretch. That
Yeah.
Jesus actually didn't appear until he became incarnate through the birth of Mary. So one of those things that, who knows? We'll find out when we get up there.
yeah, if it matters.
Okay. Verse 2, take some of the first fruits of all that you produce from the soil of the land the Lord your God is giving you. And this wraps up pretty nicely in one verse why we tithe. Because we wouldn't have anything unless God gave us the land and gave us the ability to produce. So that's why we tithe. Everything we have comes from God, all our talents, all our gifts. So actually when we tithe, when we give back to Him, we're only giving back a portion of what He gives.